I'm going to begin just by asking, I mean, how did you come to be involved in this particular project? Was the script sort of just sent to you and it just appealed to you? Or?
Well, the script was written, one of the writers was my cousin, David Weisberg. So I think that's pretty straightforward. Yeah, I mean, your cousin said, hey, I wrote a script. There's a lot of high concept and I need maybe a little bit of your help to ground it and to make it a little more character-driven film rather than just high concept action. So that's how I got involved.
Because I was wondering, I mean, obviously with The Iceman, you co-wrote the screenplay. I mean, how did it kind of differ working on someone else's script? Was it a little more restrictive at times, or did it help, obviously, because it was your cousin? Did you feel you had more freedom to change things if you needed to?
No, I had a lot of freedom on this one. And yeah, it was helpful that it was my cousin because, you know, there was no egos and we just tried to make the best, you know, out of a very complex story. I think the main difference when you're writing a script compared to when you're getting a already written script is the amount of time you're spending with the material, and there is a big difference in your mind because you know when you're coming to a movie that is kind of like fresh in your hands, and you know the amount of time you dreamt about it, the amount of time you envision what you're gonna do or what kind of movies you want to make, it's a little bit different. Obviously, when you're involved with the script that you're writing, it's you know it can take 3, 4, 5 years sometimes. So, you know, it's natural that you're gonna come into a more comfort zone on the set when you're writing because you kind of like know everything. Yeah. And when you're not writing it, there's moments that people tell you, "What about scene 222 and da da da?" And you're like, "From which movie?" Oh yeah, this film. Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit more emotional disconnection when you not have the words in your mind.
And I was wondering as well, I mean, in regards to, I mean, there's always pressure on it, on any filmmaker when they make a movie, but is that alleviated when this isn't based on reality? Because, I mean, obviously The Iceman was a true story, so you have to kind of tiptoe your way around the real people, the real events, and remain respectful of that. It must be quite freeing in some ways to make a movie that's just complete fiction.
Well, and not, because we are in a time that, you know, we have over 100 years of cinema. So I guess every person living on Earth is, in a way, in his own mind, an expert of what is possible, what is, you know, feasible. You know, a lot of people, you know, when they're watching, you know, a soccer game or a football game, and they're like, oh, it's just, you know, this player is a fucking shit, and you know, and like they have opinions about everything. When it's true story, you can do things that are, you know, out of this world, and you know, and somebody's still like, oh, come on, it's like, no, it was true. Yeah. And the moment you say it was true, it's kind of almost like deleting any judgment about whether it's possible or not possible. So when you're making a film like Criminal, when it's not true, although based on a lot of science, you know, you open Pandora door. You open a door to criticism, and you're like, oh, that's impossible. Oh, I don't buy that. We were very lucky, by the way, with the whole concept of hacking and memory transfer, and you know, some other elements that were told in the story. Because the timing of that, you know, we had the Sony hacking and then the Pentagon hacking. It's like now everybody said, if I'm going to ask you, do you believe that somebody can hack into your phone, computer? You're going to be like, oh yeah. If I would ask you 3 years ago, it was like, nah, it's impossible. Oh, it's much more difficult. So we kind of like living in a time that sometimes the fiction story becoming non-fiction, you know, on perception.
And this is your second film in a row where the lead character is quite reprehensible. They're a real kind of traditional anti-hero. Mm-hmm. And what is it about that particular type of character that just appeals to you as a filmmaker?
I like characters that are not perfect, and I like to take the audience into a journey to open themselves into people that are not necessarily, you know, they don't feel comfortable, they don't feel the immediate empathy to them, and that eventually is a journey. Like if I'm going to force you to sit down in front of, you know, a person that you really don't like or hate, or even, you know, or you've been taught to hate, and you're going to be forced to sit for an hour and 45 minutes and work it out with him, maybe most likely you're gonna come out of it and say, you know what? I found some pockets of emotional connection with that person. And I think that's something that is interesting to me. I mean, as a message as a whole, it's something that interests me to get us into a place that we are not necessarily, we are not necessarily naturally connected to somebody, and then just lead you into that place that you say, oh, I want you to succeed. I want you to feel. I want you to be like me. So it's just more interesting.
That must have been a particular challenge where the character of Jericho was concerned, just because any of his redeeming qualities belonged to Ryan Reynolds.
Right.
Yeah. So was that one of the biggest challenges for you, to ensure that the viewer does get on his side by the end of the movie?
Yeah, I mean, if you wouldn't have any connection to Jericho by the end of the film, then the movie is failing. And it's a very thin balance of how much violence do you show. We had like a couple of scenes that were really violent, and when we screened it, we just lost half the audience. So you got to be very, very careful. In one hand, you don't want to apologize about what you do, but on the other hand, you got to be very careful to not cross a certain line, that there is no way back.
And I mean, the cast, just speaking of sort of Costner and Ryan Reynolds, Gary Oldman as well, Tommy Lee Jones, Gal Gadot. I mean, it must make your job just that little bit easier when you know you're working with an ensemble cast of that quality.
Or not.
Yeah.
I mean, they have those level of cast has expectation from a director, and they coming in and most of them are filmmakers themselves. If it's Gary, Tommy, or Kevin. So they expect you to be really prepared and to understand exactly what kind of movie you want. For you, it's a comfort zone because you know that there are great actors, but on the other hand, you need to make sure that they're not just going to do their obvious or the shtick or whatever they call it. That they're just going to come and walk around, do the thing, and walk away. You need to find some kind of a passion within you to transfer it to them, so they're going to bring their A game.
So do you find when you are directing actors who have also directed that they can get more involved from the kind of technical point of view? Do they sort of say, oh, I think we should do this way? Or do you find that they often just go, I'm an actor on this project and I'm just going to remain as that?
Yeah, they usually remain as an actor. What is nice about it, that they're humble about the directing process. So if they see that, I'm in a tough place because, we're losing the time, or there's bad weather and we're losing scenes, or I got to improvise something. So they have more understanding, and they understand that, I think every actor should maybe try one time, especially when, lead actors should try to direct one time, at least in their life. So they understand that the process is extremely hard and extremely demanding. So they have some kind of extra understanding. So it was not about them telling me what to do, but it's actually them understanding me better.
Because, I mean, your films can be quite dark, they're very dramatic, there's a sort of bleakness to them at times. But, I mean, people like Ryan and obviously like Michael Shannon with the last film, they're really funny people. I mean, is it quite nice having them around on set when you're dealing with such serious themes, to have someone that just lightens the mood every now and again?
Yeah, again, I always say that, coming to a film, I never expect to have a party. I'm not trying to be a friend of my actors. I'm not trying to celebrate every moment I'm on set and say, like, look who I am, look who is around me, It's actually, in fact, from my little experience from my friends, every time I hear about, I'm asking sometimes friends, so how was it? And they're like, oh my God, it was so much fun. And I'm like, ooh, that's gonna be a tough film to watch. Yeah, so I'm not looking for the party on set. No, I'm looking for seriousness, and working here in England with the British crews, that was like something that I just like, I adore all of them, because they're really, they're serious people. They don't want you to joke around. They don't want you to come and, they want to work for 10 hours and get the fuck out of there. You know what I mean? So that was something that I appreciate. Everybody comes to do a good job, and they want to please you, and they want to please the film. They don't really care to be liked. And I like that.
And just quickly, I read that Costner, I only found out recently that he has a music career. Be honest, did he ever bring his guitar onto set?
He didn't bring the guitars on set. He brought me a few tracks to try and put in the movie. I just explained to him that this is not a Western, and this is not a country music. I'm more gravitized to electronic, and I like edge. And Costner, Costner can be Costner. He can sing lovely lullabies. I just don't think that it was the right place for him to do that. But you know, maybe we'll do some I don't know, another movie with him, and then we can use his music. But his band is really good.
Yeah. Well, if you make a western, then you know it's cool.
I mean, for him.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, listen, he's a hunter. You know, he's a countryman. You know what I mean? He like guns. You know what I mean? He's like that kind of an American person. You know, he's like a real, true cowboy. You know? Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Oh
It's
yeah,
been a
man.
real pleasure.
Good to hear your voice again.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.
Hey,